Hello, and welcome to the Community Resilience Center's Round 2 Planning Grant Application Components Overview. My name is Samantha, and I'm joined by my colleague Natalie. We are Resilient Community Associate Planners on the CRC team. We hope you find this video helpful as you prepare to apply for a CRC grant.
All right, going over our agenda for today, we will first have a brief overview of CRC Program's Planning Grant. Next, we'll review the Planning Grant application components and then take a look at the application review and scoring process. Finally, we'll leave you with some next steps and resources. Before we begin, let's go over some common acronyms we use for the CRC program. The first one is SGC, which stands for Strategic Growth Council. The next is CRC, standing for the Community Resilience Centers Program. PG stands for Planning Grant. IG stands for Implementation Grant. TA stands for Technical Assistance. CGS stands for Collaborative Governance Structure. And CGA stands for Collaborative Governance Agreement. For a program overview, the Community Resilience Centers program funds the planning, development, construction, and upgrade of community resilience centers in California, along with services and programs to improve local resilience holistically. The CRC program has $55 million total available for awards in round 2. If you would like more detail on the CRC program and how the program compares with the Transformative Climate Communities program, please review the CRC and TCC program overview video on YouTube.
Great. Let's now go over the concept of a Community Resilience Center, also known as a CRC. For our program, a Community Resilience Center is a physical building that supports communities before, during, and after climate extremes and/or climate disasters. As California faces severe climate threats, residents may face challenges such as inconsistent power supply, lack of emergency response planning, and scarcity of essential resources, including food, shelter, water, and power. To support Californians and their communities, we're investing in local community resilience centers that provide a range of services to meet community needs. A successful resilience center is community driven. It provides resilience building services such as first aid training workshops and utilizes resilient and sustainable design such as solar and battery storage. Now, let's jump into review of the planning grant so you understand the purpose of this grant and what you might expect if awarded. So, who is a CRC planning grant for? Beyond eligibility, there are several factors that might make you a great fit for a planning grant. One factor is that you are located in an area impacted by climate extremes and disasters. A key CRC program objective is mitigating public health impacts from extreme heat and other emergencies exacerbated by climate change. Next, you see the need to build both social and physical infrastructure in your community. However, you currently need support on establishing key components for your CRC. For example, you may need funding to support site assessments to help identify the most appropriate space for a CRC in your community. Or you may need to support conducting community engagement to gain valuable input on creating the design of the CRC or programs and services that advance your community's unique ability to respond to and recover from climate extremes and emergencies. Or you may need funding for capacity building, such as training staff or developing organizational processes to help implement services and programs. The planning grant application allows applicants to develop their own work plan and budget based on their unique needs. One important note is that the planning grant does not fund construction activities, renovations, or land acquisitions. The planning grant is for applicants in the early stages of planning for a community resilience center, and the planning grant is a great opportunity to fund activities that will move you closer to creating a CRC in your community. Now, what can you expect from a CRC grant? The CRC Planning Grant funds 2 years of planning activities beginning in fall 2027 and ending in fall 2029. Applicants can request between $100,000 to $500,000 for their planning activities. This grant can fund a variety of activities in this 2-year timeframe, such as identifying and preparing project sites for future CRCs, building and sustaining local capacity, such as hiring staff or gaining access to financial or legal services, designing community engagement or developing partnerships, and much more. We highly recommend reviewing Section 4.2 Eligible Planning Grant Activities for more ideas. SGC plans to announce planning grant awards in spring 2027. The lead applicants will then enter into a post-award consultation process with SGC for 2 to 3 months and then can begin their 2-year planning grant activities.
So let's take a look at the eligible lead applicant types. Eligible lead applicants include California Native American tribes and tribally owned nonprofits, IRC 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organizations, or local and regional public agencies, which includes but are not limited to special districts, public utilities, and municipal water companies. Private companies are ineligible as lead applicants or funded partners. Now that we've covered eligible applicants, we want to provide some additional information specifically about tribal applicants. California Native American tribes and tribal applicants are eligible for several modifications and special considerations throughout the planning grant application process and throughout the grant term. To be eligible for tribal modifications and special considerations, the lead applicant must be a tribe or tribally owned nonprofit. To learn how the CRC program defines tribal applicants, tribal modifications, and flexibility, please review Section 2, California Native American Tribes and Tribal Applicants. Tribal applicants are prioritized for technical assistance during the application process, but must request application TA through the Technical Assistance Request Form by July 31st, 2026.
In addition to being an eligible applicant, planning grant applicants must also have eligible projects. At application, applicants are required to have at least one partner with a signed letter of commitment. Partners at application are encouraged. In addition, your proposal must define a planning area. Applicants may define their own planning area. A planning area could be a neighborhood, a city, or a county, depending on your geographic context. But the planning area must be based in California and must identify at least one proposed CRC facility. You may include multiple CRC sites with the intention of selecting a suitable site if awarded. The defined planning area must clearly identify the community that will be impacted by your proposed CRC and your related planning activities. Given the diversity of communities served across the state, proposals will vary in design and context. Applicants are encouraged to align their planning area with the specific needs of the populations and communities that they represent. To summarize the CRC Round 2 application timeline, our NOFA was released on May 29th, 2026. The CRC applications for both planning and implementation grants opened on July 2nd. Planning grant applications will be due on September 4th, and implementation grant applications will be due on September 25th. The Strategic Growth Council plans to announce the successful Round 2 grantees in 2026.
Right, now that we've reviewed the planning grant and what you can expect, let's learn how to apply. For all those interested in applying, all applications for the CRC Round 2 are required to be submitted through Submittable, a free online application platform. Lead applicants will need to create a free Submittable account or sign in with Google or Facebook credentials to initiate an application. On our website, we will post all the links to access the Submittable platform where you can download all application materials. Please note you can edit your application in the Submittable platform until you are ready to submit it. Additionally, you do not have to work on the application in order. You can start on a later section, then circle back to an earlier section to complete it. If you have any technical issues with the Submittable platform, please reach out directly to Submittable for assistance. Just a reminder that the planning grant applications on Submittable will close on September 4th, 2026 at 11:59 Pacific Time, 11:59 p.m. Pacific Time. You will need to press that final submit form button at the end of the application for us to receive your application. So now that you know what a community resilience center is and have a better understanding of our program and planning grant, and know that you can meet eligibility requirements, let's talk about the planning grant application itself.
To start with, we have a few helpful tips. You can pause this video to read all the tips on this slide. In general, we recommend reviewing the entire application before answering questions. For each answer, make sure all details are accurate and that you've answered each part of the question thoroughly. There are branching questions, which means your answer to one question may then generate other questions or attachments for you to upload. Be sure to complete all questions. Please note that you can edit Submittable before submitting your application. So if you make a mistake, you can correct it before submitting your application. You do not have to work on the application in order. You can skip around between sections and questions. For narrative questions, as we mentioned earlier, proposals will vary in design and context. Applicants are encouraged to align their submissions with the specific needs of the populations and communities they represent. The narrative questions are a great opportunity to reflect your community, so take the time to give details and be specific. We recommend all applicants to review the CRC program objectives and the S2C program approach found in section 1.3, program objectives, and section 1.4, program approach, to align your proposal with our program objectives and approach. Lastly, we want to remind you that real people will be reading your applications who may not have a prior knowledge of your community and the neighborhood and will certainly have no familiarity with your project. Make sure to be clear, answer all parts of the questions, and be sure to explain things that may be unique to your project or community.
And some additional guidance for application attachments. In addition to the submittable multiple choice questions and narrative questions, there will be opportunities to attach supporting documentation or complete additional application components. Please follow the listed instructions and stay within the stated word or page count. Reviewers cannot consider any work beyond the allotted word and/or page count. Follow all naming conventions listed in the instructions so that reviewers can easily find your work. Cite your sources when possible. After all of those helpful tips, let's review the CRC Planning Grant application. The application is divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is the lead applicant information. Part 2 is the project proposal. This is the biggest section of the application. And lastly, Part 3, project feasibility. Each part consists of several sections. Now let's go over each of these parts in more depth. In Part 1, applicant information, this is a straightforward section where the applicant will complete their contact information, select their organization type and upload supporting documentation, and confirm they are operating in California. This part of the application will help us determine that you meet the eligibility requirements for our program and contact you with any questions or updates. Whoever starts the application in Submittable will become the lead applicant and lead grantee if awarded.
Next, part 2, project proposal. Part 2, the project proposal, contains 6 sections and is the longest part of the application. We will spend a moment on this slide reviewing each of the 6 sections and will then provide additional detail about a few key sections. In Section 2, Project Overview, you'll be able to share a high-level overview of your project and answer questions about your partners and the benefits you hope your project will bring to your community, such as resilience to climate impacts or reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Section 3 of the application workbook. The application workbook is an SGC-provided template in Excel. It includes your project's work plan and budget. We'll provide more detail on the next slide, and we will have a separate video webinar just like this one to go over the workbook and help you define your work plan and budget for your proposal. Section 4, Planning Area and Eligibility, is where you will provide the location of at least one CRC site, but you may include multiple CRC sites with the intention of selecting a suitable site in the future. You will also describe your process for defining your planning area, including any partners or local residents that you consulted. Section 5, Vision and Objectives, is where you will be able to clarify the meaning and purpose of your planning grant proposal and explain how your work plan and the proposed activities align with your proposal's vision and your long-term goals to build a community resilient center. Section 6, Community Profile, Engagement, and Partners. We'll get into this a little more in upcoming slides, but this section allows you to describe your local community within your planning area and surrounding your proposed CRC facility. Applicants can use a wide range of information such as firsthand community history, data sets, consider the many factors that make up their community, such as population characteristics, socioeconomic factors, or community assets, such as land, buildings, people, or services that contributes to the social, cultural, or economic well-being of the community. This is also the section where lead applicants will designate their communities as under-resourced, tribal, rural, or unincorporated communities, if applicable. Lastly, applicants will describe how they will serve priority populations. Additionally, in a few slides, we'll talk more about the collaborative governance structure, also known as the CGS. Section 7, Project Impact. Again, we'll have more information in a couple slides, but this section is where applicants can share the specific climate hazards impacting their communities, the current status of community resilience in their planning area, and the connection between your proposed planning grant activities and building both climate and community resilience. Now we'll get into some specifics of these sections.
So, Section 3 is the application workbook. As mentioned earlier, all applicants will complete an application workbook in an Excel template provided by SGC. The application workbook is a critical element of your application. This Excel template allows applicants to clearly break down their work plan and budget by grant phase. Leverage funding is not required, but for applicants using other grant funding, loans, or investments for their planning grant, you will be able to disclose those details in your application book. Your application workbook will be used throughout the grant term, and it will inform the budget in your grant agreement. Because the application workbook is so detailed, we will be providing a full video to explain and demonstrate how to use this tool. This will be posted to the CRC Round 2 webpage when it is available. In Section 6, Community Profile and Engagement, as we mentioned earlier, applicants will have the opportunity to describe their community, including whether the planning area is a priority community or serves priority populations, using the definitions listed in Section 1.5, Investing in Priority Communities and Populations. In addition, applicants will be asked a series of questions on prior community engagement. We are specifically interested in prior community engagement that relates to resilience or resilience themes. When considering which engagement events or efforts to highlight in your proposal, you should focus on engagement related to the development of your CRC proposal or related to the CRC program strategies, such as air quality and public health, climate resilience or climate innovation, and many more. You will also be able to provide details on 3 to 5 events that were most impactful, how you were able to make the events accessible, and any feedback you received from those events that you've incorporated into your CRC proposal. In addition to sharing your prior community engagement, you will also prepare a future community engagement plan using a template provided by SGC. In this template, you will provide a detailed description and timeline of how community representatives will be involved in the development of your CRC project. If awarded, this plan will be used as a guide for community engagement during your grant term.
Now we'll talk about Section 6, Community Profile Engagement Partners, and we'll talk about the proposed collaborative governance structure. So Section 6 will cover questions on a proposed collaborative governance structure. Partnerships and collaborative governance are core requirements for our program and are essential to achieving community-driven resilience projects. The collaborative governance structure, also known as a CGS, refers to the lead grantee, partners, and community representatives involved in the governance of project implementation. The Collaborative Governance Agreement, also known as a CGA, is a written agreement that outlines the responsibilities of each CGS member, the operation procedures, and principles to help all participants share decision-making power. Planning grant applicants do not need to submit a CGA worksheet or any formal agreements at application. Instead, applicants will propose a diverse list of partners rooted in the local community and also share their vision for a collaborative governance structure that they would like to pursue during the grant term. If awarded, applicants can expect to translate their CGS vision into reality and develop a formal CGA within the first year of the grant term. For tribal applicants without partners, there are no further collaborative governance requirements beyond what is included in the application. In Section 7, Project Impact, you will describe the climate hazards and impacts affecting your project area and community, as well as the existing factors of community resilience. How does your neighborhood currently respond to disaster and build resilience? And how the proposed project will contribute to building resilience in your neighborhood. We will ask you to submit the best available local reports, quantitative or qualitative data, and/or community knowledge and histories to demonstrate the project impact. You can use multiple data sources, and there are many places where you can source this information. 2 options you can use are the Vulnerable Communities Platform and CalAdapt. Both of these tools are linked in the application, and you can use these GIS tools to visualize data on several climate hazards, including extreme heat, flood risk, sea level rise, drought, and wildfire.
Right, so we are now in the last part of the application, Part 3, Project Feasibility. Part 3 includes 2 sections, Section 8, Applicant Capacity, and Section 9, Site Control and Readiness. Section 8, applicant capacity. In this section, applicants will submit letters of commitment from the lead applicant and all partners describing their ability to oversee, manage, and implement the planning grant if awarded. We do provide a letter of commitment template to ensure all required information is included. Applicants will then answer narrative questions regarding the relevant project experience, financial capacity, and any policies in place to minimize fraud, waste, and abuse when managing public funds. The lead applicant will then be requested to upload several financial documents to demonstrate financial capacity.
Section 9, Site Control and Readiness. Site control and readiness are critical requirements for the CRC program to ensure projects can advance efficiently from proposals to implementation. In this section, applicants will answer narrative questions about their plan to gain site control if awarded. We understand that planning grant applicants may not have ownership or site control of their proposed CRC site at application. This question allows applicants to explain how they plan to select their CRC site and gain control of the property in the future. Site control can be met in various ways, such as purchasing the property or gaining an option from the property owner to sell or lease the property in the future. We recommend reviewing Appendix F, Site Control, to understand the various ways you can demonstrate site control. Awarded applicants will be required to demonstrate the ability to gain site control no later than 90 days prior to the end of the grant term. If you already have ownership or site control of the property, you will simply submit documentation verifying your control. The final question asks applicants to provide details on how they meet or will meet readiness requirements for future CRC funding rounds. We recommend applicants look at the requirements for the implementation grant, such as facility condition assessments, floor plans, project site and land use analysis, coordination with emergency services providers, and any other requirements that may be missing from your CRC, and incorporate those requirements into your work plan and budget. Your response to this question should explain how your work plan readies you for future CRC funding.
All right, so while we have covered a lot today, we want to make it clear that this video does not address all required questions and documentation that you will need to complete at application. You must thoroughly review the application to ensure you have responded to all questions. Before we conclude, we'll touch on the application review and scoring process, which you should keep in mind as you begin to build out your application. So for the application review and scoring process, we've provided the scoring criteria in Section 8 of the guidelines. Be sure to read those in detail to understand how many points you can receive for each section. The application review process will involve several steps. It will begin with a threshold review by SGC staff for eligibility and general completeness, and we'll explain more in depth in the next slide. Applications that pass threshold review will have a full application review by SGC staff and an interagency review panel composed of professionals from multiple state agencies. After all scoring is complete, SGC staff will make proposals for Round 2 awards to the Council, who will vote to approve final awards. So let's take a closer look at threshold review. As we mentioned, this is a general completeness check. At the threshold review stage, reviewers will check for general completeness as well as applicant and planning area eligibility. They will also look at community engagement, site control and readiness, applicant capacity, and project financial feasibility. For specific threshold requirements, please see Section 8.5 of the guidelines. If an application is missing any information, SGC will inform the lead applicant and they will have a brief window to resolve. If an application remains incomplete or is unable to meet the program thresholds, their application will not proceed to the next steps of the review process.
As mentioned, the full application review involves an interagency review panel who will compare application components against the scoring criteria outlined in the guidelines. They will cover vision and objectives, community profile, prior community engagement and engagement plan, and project impact. Eligible applications will receive additional points if they meet certain criteria. These additional points are known as priority points. Please refer to Section 8.4 Funding Priorities and Priority Points for more information. From those scored by the Interagency Review Panel, the top scoring applicants will go on to be scored on project feasibility. All of these will be combined with the final score, which is a possible 106 points. Again, you can review the guidelines for more details on scoring. Now that you have all of this information about application components, we're sure you're ready to get started. Let's quickly go over the next steps and resources you can use during the application process. We recommend the Round 2 guidelines and also reviewing the Round 2 materials on our webpage. If you are eligible for technical assistance, you can submit a technical assistance interest form until July 31st, 2026. We have also prepared an applicant preparation guide, which is as a checklist to gather documents and organize information before starting your application. Our team is also tracking frequently asked questions. We have a form available online where you can submit questions. Our team will review the questions and post responses online within a week unless the question has already been answered. We will also be offering application office hours. We'll host 3 general sessions in July and August on Zoom, during which you can ask questions and get live support. We also have a series of video resources available, including an application overview video that provides more background information on the CRC program and an application workbook overview video coming soon. We encourage you to regularly check our website for updates. Thank you for watching this video. We have the key dates outlined here. Reminder that the planning grant application is due on September 4th and the implementation grant application is due on September 25th. If you have any follow-up questions, we'll have office hours listed on our website, or you can use the QR code on screen to submit questions via our Microsoft Forms. We wish you all the best on your application, and we'll see you in the next video.